guys, MJ675 here, and today I'm going to be doing a new video where today we will be comparing the two Anakin's Jedi Starfighter sets to each other. The set numbers for each will be on the screen below each one right now. The one on the left is the newest version, released this year, 2018, or at least when this is being recorded it is this year, and the one on the right is the original version of this vehicle released in 2008. So we will be taking a look at these two sets today, and I will be comparing them on three sort of criteria, being the figure selection, the display value of the set, as well as the play value of this set as well. So each of these two sets will be compared based on these three metrics, and we'll be having a best out of three to see which one is the better set. So without further ado, let's get into it. But before we do that, I have one note to make, is that I have reviewed the set on the left here, but I have not reviewed the set on the right. So before I do those comparisons, I'm going to take an in-depth look at this set right here. But if you want to see my thoughts and opinions on the newest version of the set, then go check out my review if you have not seen it. All my thoughts are detailed there. So to make this video shorter, I will be focusing on the 2008 model for my analysis sort of section. So if you want my thoughts on the newest version, go watch my review. And if you have seen my review already, now I'm going to go and take a look at the 2008 version of this set. So to be starting out, we will be taking a look at the figures that you get in this set. So let's start here. On the left we have the Anakin figure, and on the right we have the R2-D2 figure. So I'll just do a quick look around. The Anakin figure only has torso printing, which for 2008 was not uncommon. No leg or back printing on the torso either. And the R2-D2 is a pretty old version with kind of the same sort of idea with the printing on the body, not on the back, but it does have some face printing as well. I was not very lucky with this head print. As you might be able to see, it does kind of warp a bit around the head of the figure, which, you know, isn't terrible, but obviously it would have been awesome to get a better one. Removing Anakin's hairpiece, which I believe to be the same one that is used on the new set, we will see that he has no alternate face, and the face that he does not have that sort of communications sort of flying headgear thing printed on it. So at least from my opinion of the set, that makes this a bit of a better figure, but it is nice if you're piloting the ship to have that sort of thing on it. So now that we have taken a look at these two figures, let's take a look at the Anakin's Jedi Starfighter build. Alright, so now let's take a look at the builds from this set. Kind of starting out here in the front, you can see that there are some stickers on this version, and it is tiled over as comparison to the curved version of the newer set. So pretty interesting looking detail. Quite a lot of studs here as well. Then we'll kind of move up back here. You have these sort of details here on the wings. Very nice looking. I really like how these turned out. Then moving up a bit more, here we have the spot for R2-D2. So you can take your R2-D2 figure that came in this set, and then I like to switch the head around and then just put him in there. No studs or anything for this figure to lock onto, so unfortunately if you are swooshing this around like you do and you happen to do that, then the figure is more than likely going to fall out of the set. Very unfortunate about that, but you do get an interesting action feature which we'll get into a bit later. So moving on to this side of the wing, you can see the Republic insignia. This is a printed piece, not a stickered piece, so I do like having these printed on these sorts of sets, especially on pieces like this. Then on the other side, you just don't have a piece where that would go, so that's alright. Though I do like this yellow detailing on the wings, it looks very cool. One thing that you will notice about this set is that there are a few gaps in here as well, but it's not nearly as bad as the newer Starfighter. In addition to that, these wings are on ratcheting joints, so you could completely close those gaps up by doing this, but the ship does look very unusual if you were to do this. Or you can just put it back the way it was, or you can even ratchet it more. So do have quite a few options with this set as far as that's concerned. Moving back a bit more towards here, we have the cockpit, which to open you just remove this whole piece. It's not on a hinge or anything. It is the older style of this sort of cockpit piece where they have not integrated the hinge in, so the hinge is a separate piece. Taking your Anakin figure now, you can remove his lightsaber and then just sit him down. And before we do that, taking a look at the inside of the cockpit, you don't have a whole lot of detail going on in here. You do have a printed control panel piece, which is a pretty common piece, and not really much detail besides that. No gaps, which is very nice, and the figure sits in there pretty nicely. If if you can get him in there. He does sit on 4 studs, and it is a bit challenging to get his feet stuck in there, but once you do, it works very well. And then the cockpit piece goes back on just like this, and now you're ready to fly around. But moving to the back section here, we have this sort of fin design here, which is actually a very large flag piece, and I believe this is printed. I don't think they'd give you a sticker for this specific piece. It's quite a large piece, but these Republic insignias on either side are printed. They're stickered pieces, not printed pieces. So this does have the tendency to move around a little bit, and it's not the most stable thing ever. Sometimes if you do that, you can grab the whole thing, but from the side, I mean, yeah, I guess you can kind of support the whole set by grabbing this, but it's much easier on the newer version. Moving down, we'll now take a look at the underside of the ship, but first, before we do that, so that R2-D2 doesn't fall out, I'm going to show you the action feature with R2-D2. So taking a look back here, you can see that there's this blue, transparent blue cone piece, and if you are to hit that really hard, then you will eject the R2-D2 figure, and that has just fallen onto my floor. But you can eject it with that feature. Where to look down there, you can see that pushing that will activate a little Technic lift arm that will push R2-D2 out, and you can see why there is no stud connection here due to it needing to sort of grab up right in there where the plate would be. I could see them doing something like this on this side, but maybe it was causing too much sort of stay power where you couldn't really launch the R2-D2 out. Who knows why they didn't do it, but they did not. So now we'll take a look at the underside of the ship, where you can get a better look at how this action feature works if you are interested, and that is the whole mechanism there. You also do have 2 flick fire missiles right here, which if you are familiar with it all, do work pretty well. You can flick them like that, and yeah, pretty hard to lose these. I know stud shooters, they launch pretty far, and it's kind of easy to lose them. Spring-loaded shooters, not so much, but it is not very challenging to hold on to these, as usually they don't go very far, and if they do, they're pretty easy to track. So now we will take a look at the main feature under here, which is the landing gear. So as you can see, there are 3 skids under here, and when the ship is landed, not very easy to tip over. You can hit it as hard as you want. It will not tip over at all due to the support that you get from these 3 things. And if you want to fly away, all you have to do is fold them up there on the same sort of ratcheting joint system that most of the landing gear pieces are on, as well as the ones in the new set, and fold it up. This does look pretty nice, so no real complaints there. Now we will take a look at the underside here, where you do have some engines in the back, which, you know, aren't super detailed, but I don't think they really need to be. And kind of the most important thing of a set like this is swooshability, and this is something I touched on my review of the new set. And if I want to fly this thing around, the place that I want to grab it is right here. As you can see, it's pretty nice and big section to grab, and it works very nicely. Very comfortable, very easy to fly this thing around. You know, no problems with swooshability for this set at all. But now that we have taken a look at pretty much the whole vehicle, you may be wondering, hey, where do I store Anakin's lightsaber? Because that is not something that we have seen on this model. And the answer to that, unfortunately, is unless you modify the set to do this, which actually is very easy to do, which I actually had on this before I removed it for this video, but there is no place to store Anakin's lightsaber in this set. You could break it down and maybe try to stuff it in the cockpit, and we'll see how well that works in a second. You can put the lightsaber hilt down there, and then the blade just kind of sticks out, so you can throw it in the cockpit, but that looks pretty terrible, so would not recommend doing that at all. And I think that's probably the biggest problem with this set, is that there's no place to store the lightsaber, and with time and probably a lot of product feedback, they did eventually begin to implement that on the Jedi Starfighters. I believe one of the first ones to have it was Plo Koon's Jedi Starfighter, but I may be wrong, and I will not be bringing that set out because it's packed pretty heavily on shelves, unfortunately. So now that we have taken a look at this set and its features, it's time to compare these 2 sets to each other, starting out with the figure selection of both sets. Alright, so now we will be taking a look at the 2 figures that you get in both these sets. They are meant to represent the same things. Again, set numbers on the screen now so you can tell them apart if you cannot visually. The figures that are included in this set are Anakin Skywalker in his Clone Wars version, as well as R2-D2. So there you have the Anakin Skywalkers, and there you have the R2-D2s. Pretty standard stuff going on here. So out of these figures, we have looked at all of them not only in this video we looked at the older ones, but in my review of the newer set we looked at the newer ones. So what do I think about this figure selection? Well, as far as using them in their own sets, I think that the newer figure is probably more suited. These two R2-D2 figures, you know, it's kind of more of a preference thing, which one you want more. I kind of like the newer version a bit more than the older version, but that's just my opinion. These two figures are basically interchangeable in my view. So basically, it comes down to which one of these figures you think is better. If I had to choose one based on just using the set, I think that the newer one is better due to it having the headgear on it, as well as just having the nice sort of updated prints and other things on it. However, if we were to look at using this set and the figures in more than just the set, I would like this figure more due to it not having the headgear piece. And while it may not have that print on its face at all, I think that having just a blank face, at least of that, and just having a normal face is much better. Also, you do have to take into account the Clone Wars eyes, but I don't really mind them so much. I think that it's fine that they're included, but I don't really mind that they have gone away really either. So if I had to choose one of these two figure selections, you know, it's kind of a toss-up. It really depends on what you want out of the figures. I think that most people would want the updated R2-D2, so this side gets that, but I also like Anakin without the headgear, so I think that side gets that. But if I had to choose one, it really just depends on what you want again, and it's a really hard choice to make, because on one hand the newer figure is much better for this set, but on the other hand the older figure is much better for general purpose use and other things of the sort. So I think that on this one I'm going to side with the general purpose use overall, because I think that the figure would get more mileage, more usage if you had to pick one, if it had more of a general purpose sort of face here. And I'm going to choose the 2008 set here for the figure selection. If they had included a print on the face without the sort of headgear for piloting on in this figure here, I would have chosen the newer figures, but because they did not include that, and I think it is very important to have your figures be able to serve multiple purposes as the same sort of figure, then I'm going to be choosing the 2008 figures. But it's really a toss-up. It depends on what you want. If you're just going to use this figure or these figures with this set, if you're not going to have Anakin go out on the battlefield or whatever, you're just going to have him flying around, then I would select these figures here. But if you want a general purpose sort of figure selection, then I would go with the 2008 figures here. So now that we have taken a look at the figure selection, it is time to compare the two vehicles on not only playability but display value as well. Alright, so now that we've taken a look at the figure selection, I'm going to compare these two builds. First, we will start out with display value, as that is going to be the quicker one to get out of the way first. So as far as the display value goes, we'll start with the newer set here. I think that overall this set does look much better. It does have quite a few gaps in it though, and that kind of does bring it down a bit. But overall, I think that this is a very sleek model, a very nice updated design, and I like it quite a lot. As compared to the older version, which at least to me looks a bit more blocky. You know, that they didn't have as many pieces back then to sort of make it look more rounded. There is a lot less detailing on the wings as well, and the back area on this set I think looks, it depends on what you're looking for, but I think that if I had to pick one, I would pick this set for the back over this one. But still, it really depends on what you're looking for. One thing that I think is worth mentioning of these two sets is that you cannot really see it here, but the original set is a bit shorter than the newer set. I guess if I were to sort of back them up against the same point, then you would see that the original is a bit shorter, and the newer set is a bit taller as well, mostly due in part to the landing gear. So the newer set is a bit of a larger model, but the scales are still very similar. So I think that if I had to choose one of these for display value, I think I'd pick this one. The cockpit is much better. The whole model is much more rounded and looks a lot more sleek. This one, while it does have some things that I like more than the newer one, like these parts here, I think that the new one, just in general, kind of blows this whole design out of the water as far as looks go. So display value goes to the newer set here. So now it is time to analyze the deciding factor, which is play value. So for this, we'll be taking a look at the various play features on both of these sets, starting out once again with the new one. As far as play features go, you do have the stud shooters here, which work just like all other stud shooters do. You push down here, and it fires off the stud. R2-D2 is held in here, which is a kind of a nice play feature, but it doesn't have any really thing else to offer. You also have the cockpit with the moving windscreen, which works very well. And as far as the bottom goes, you have a place to hold Anakin's lightsaber right here, as well as movable landing gear. However, one thing that I will say about the landing gear, just like I said in my review, is that it is pretty bad at holding the ship up. It is a very much an unstable design. It is very easy to knock this ship over if you are not careful. So, landing gear, while I like that it's included, I think that it could have definitely been improved on this model. Taking a look at the older model here, no play features really with the wings up here, but underneath you do have the flick fire missiles. Once again, going underneath, because we're already over here, you do have the foldable landing gear. Just like the other one, you do have more skids, and this allows a lot more stability to the model here. Can't really knock it over. It's very well done landing gear here. No place to hold the lightsaber, unfortunately, so you're going to have to put that off to the side, but that is a very easy thing to mod onto this set if you so choose. Here we have the R2-D2 sort of area. The cockpit is right behind with a removable windscreen, which is worse than the one on a hinge that this one has, but it is still passable. And once again, in the back, you do have kind of the biggest play feature of this set based on this button, which is the R2-D2 ejection button. So just slam that. And if you slam it very hard like that, R2-D2 will just go flying everywhere, and that is very cool. So overall, if we are to count quantity of play features, we have one, well, big play features. We have one, because I'm not going to count the cockpit or anything. 2, 3 real play features here, which isn't a bad number for a set like this. But over here we have 1, 2, 3. Okay, hold on. Let me recount. We have basically the same number, actually. So we have the flick fire missiles, the landing gear, and the ejection button. But I think that if I had to pick between the R2-D2 ejector and the lightsaber storage thing, the lightsaber storage thing is just such an easy thing to add on to this set. And it's not really a big deal anyway. You can totally take it apart and put it in the cockpit with Anakin as well. While it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, it is something you can do. So I think that if I had to choose one of these as far as play goes, I am going to side with the 2008 version once again. That R2-D2 ejection feature is a really nice feature in this, which hasn't really been in a whole lot of other ones. I know that there have been some other ejection features similar, but not really in a lot of Jedi Starfighters. For the astromech droid, I think this might be the only one, to my knowledge, that we have. And while this updated version does have a lot of nice stuff like the lightsaber holder and the flick and the sort of stud shooters, as well as the sort of landing gear as well, I think that for what this set does, it does most of the features that are shared between these two sets. I think this set does better. It does better job of the landing gear, and it does do a pretty nice job at those flick missiles if you can master those. However, these are much easier to use, so I could totally see people replacing those onto this set if they so chose. But as far as play value goes, I do have to side with the 2008 version. The 2018 version just doesn't have any really big signature feature that really knocks this set out of the water. So now that we have done all those comparisons, I think it's pretty obvious. Winning by one category, the 2008 Anakin Jedi Starfighter is the winner of this comparison. However, I don't think that you are bad if you buy the new one and skip out on the old one. Really depends on what you're buying it for. If you like these figures more, then go for this one, because the figures category is really a toss-up. So if I had to really say which one of these sets you're looking for, it's really based on what you're looking for. If you just want something to pilot the vehicle, I would side with this set. If you're looking for something to play with, this is definitely a great option. It is quite a lot older though, so again, wouldn't blame you for just picking up the new one here. But very, very close indeed. I think that this could really go either way, and it depends on what you're looking for in these two sets. This model's a sleeker design, but it doesn't have as many play features. This model has better play features, and it's not as sleek of a design, but it arguably has better figures, and this one has newer updated figures, so really depends on what you're looking for out of this set. I think that if you're looking for a nice display sort of set, then this is your set, but if you're looking for something to play with, then this is your set here. So I think that's going to wrap up my comparison between these two sets. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Let me know what you think of these two sets in the comments section below. Let me know which one you think is better and which one you think is worse. Let me know which ones you would buy if you had to buy only one of these. Would you go for the 2008 design, or would you go for the 2018 design, seeing how they have updated the design over 10 years? So that is it for this video. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.